Story 1. The crushing weight of expectations has been with me since I was a child. I have never felt good enough and I can't share my feelings, as it makes me feel lesser. So, I swallow it all and put on a fake smile. Seems no one cares about me and no one is going to save me. I don't receive anything. I give everything and get little to nothing in return. Story 2. Emotionless. Oh, we have emotions. We are told it's okay to express them, but we are shown it is not okay to express them. Story 3. Only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. A man is only loved on the condition that he provides something. Story 4. I'm just hanging out. I'm a young boy in a big monkey suit. I do fun things and I just enjoy myself. I am a man. Story 5. If I stumble, that is it. Nobody is coming to help. If I have a breakdown or fall apart, I am last in the priority queue for every agency, service, and charity. If I end up homeless, I am last in line to get a place at the shelter. So it is not an option. Story 6. I dislike this. This is normal. I appreciate it. Story 7. I have lunch every day at work with 2 women. It's been 4 months of lunches. I can tell you their partners' names, when they met, their ages, birthdays, how many pets they have, all their pets' names, where they have traveled, what they have studied, what they are studying, and other general topics of conversation. If you gave me a quiz, I could ace it. The other day at work, I mentioned that I needed to take my dog to the veterinarian. One of those 2 women spoke up and said, "You don't have a dog, do you?" Couldn't believe it. Yes, I do. Imagine if you tried active listening or simply asked a question that wasn't focused on yourself. When I stopped having lunch with them recently and started eating in my car, I was asked by management who had noticed why I wasn't being part of the team anymore. Sorry, what? Team? I feel like I am working full-time on bettering myself to standards that society, and very specifically women, have set for me to meet and maintain. Yet I am treated like an object that gets reprimanded for not doing more, regardless of how much I give of myself to others. If I speak out about how I feel, I am met with guilt and shunned by any form of affection other than feigned appreciation. I am tired, and my body is worn out. No, I can't move that fridge to the other side of the kitchen because there are no PowerPoints over there. No, I can't put in a PowerPoint because I'm not an electrician. No, I can't ask the guy I met for 2 minutes at the barbecue last weekend if he will do it for free, but I will. Because I feel like a failure if I don't meet the expectations that you have set. I just want to be loved the way I deserve to be loved. Like I am a human who actually exists. Story 8. It's very lonely. There seems to be a distance between myself and everyone else, even people I'm really close to. Interactions seem more and more performative and less genuine. Story 9. Repeatedly doing things you would rather not do, day after day for the greater good of your family and yourself. It is not all bad. It is mostly great. Story 10. I am expected to support my family materially, financially, and emotionally, without a break, with very little more than a verbal thank you now and then. The worst part is that I am strong enough to continue. I can keep doing it indefinitely because if I haven't broken yet, I won't. I am not going to receive the same level of support and affection in return as I am giving. That's simply how it is. Story 11. Honestly, you need to be more specific. My life is very multifaceted, and I'm not sure what aspects are affected by the fact that I'm a man. Story 12. Yesterday, I had to apologize to my best friend, who is like a sister to me, because she hurt my feelings. Story 13. Constant reminders of masculinity define the experience. It's uncomfortable. Adjust and scratch. When unexpected arousal occurs, act casually. Eyes are in constant conflict with the mind, resisting the urge to stare at every woman's figure I encounter. Being a man is an internal struggle to control primal instincts in a world that has moved beyond them. Story 14. For me, it's wonderful. I work, relax, exercise, and play video games. I have sufficient funds for the rest of my life and more, and I enjoy my job. However, if it vanished, I would not mind. I spend each day exactly as I please. Being a man is great if you avoid significant mistakes, adhere to societal norms, and live a fulfilling life. Most importantly, I am content being alone. This provides me with ultimate flexibility, power, and control over my life. Story 15. I tried to fight the good fight of being a man for 45 years. The pressure, expectations, and work-life balance were non-existent. Relationship disappointments and family demands, both by blood and marriage, left me drained. Ultimately, it became too much. I exist now. I can have fun and enjoy myself, but any thoughts of finding a happy and fulfilling life are gone. I did try, though. Story 16. No one cares about you. You have to fight for everything. Your toxic counterparts dominate the public's attention. We find solitude in our family and loved ones. Story 17. Both very positive and challenging. Positive due to the physical benefits, especially not having periods. It is challenging because once you reach a certain age, you are no longer seen as cute or adorable, but instead as a threat, particularly as a black man. There are numerous expectations placed on you, and if you do not meet them, you may be considered a failure or not a real man. You must be careful about whom you allow yourself to be vulnerable with, whether that person is a man or a woman, as that can end poorly. If you experience burnout from a full schedule, you may be perceived as lazy or lacking ambition instead of being asked about any underlying issues. So, there are many benefits related to physical aspects. However, life is also difficult because of those advantages, causing others to be extremely cautious around you and overlooking the emotional and mental facets of your humanity. Story 18. I am a relatively tall and muscular man, and I feel that I am often perceived as more threatening. I am not comfortable with that. I can sense it when I walk down the street, especially from people who might feel more vulnerable and less secure, such as smaller women and the elderly. I believe that the media, including Hollywood, has conditioned society to think that men are the primary source of danger and violence. While there is some truth to that, what about the many decent and peaceful men? Generalizing is not fair. Story 19. I choose not to complain about it. Men and women all have their own problems. Sitting here feeling sorry for myself because I was born a man is not going to change anything. There will always be rude people, just as there will always be those who complain about them. I ignore hateful individuals because what can they do? Use their words against me? I surround myself with kind and caring people. That makes a world of difference. I have the people I care about and those who care about me. Life is too short and sweet to be bitter my whole life. Story 20. As a 22-year-old American man currently attending college, here's how I describe it. Gender stereotyping is prevalent. As a college student studying to become an elementary school teacher, I often find myself as the only male in my classes. Over the past 4 years, I have worked in 2 different childcare facilities and have babysat on the side, which has created some of the best experiences of my life. However, how do people perceive me? I have been labeled an asset, which I initially took as a compliment. However, I have come to see it as two-faced. On one side, it is a recognition, while on the other, it implies that I am the only man in a staff that previously had none. As a man in a field predominantly occupied by women, there is a societal notion that I am a threat. The stereotype suggests that any man working in this field has ulterior motives. I encounter this stereotype subliminally every day. When young children come up to me at the daycare, I must be careful about my actions to avoid being perceived as inappropriate. This means I constantly walk a fine line between being an open, emotional supporter and appearing cold and unapproachable, when all I want is to be a strong support for children who may lack one at home. Even my own family has pushed back against my choice to defy established gender norms. It took years for my parents to accept this path, and my siblings may never come around. I even faced resistance when I began babysitting, with little recognition of my efforts to earn money. This has contributed to a tense home life, especially since I have not moved out due to high living costs. As someone eventually working on a teacher's salary, I need to save every penny. I have always had a feminine personality and worldview. I often describe myself as the biggest male feminist out there. Friends and colleagues have commented on how good of a girl dad I would be. I take great pride in the work I do and strive to avoid the stereotypes I mentioned earlier, even though they persist. There remains pressure to perform at 150% capacity just to gain recognition for 100%. I am incredibly grateful for the trusting relationships I have built with families. When I left my previous job for a new position, several families kept in touch and hired me to babysit their children. While working at this level is exhausting, I remind myself that I'm not in it for personal gain, but to make a positive difference in as many lives as I can. That is the reward. Lastly, I am thankful for all the women who have paved the way in male-dominated fields. Without them, I would not have the opportunity to follow my passion. Life as a man can be fulfilling if you conform to stereotypes, but if you challenge them, there will be obstacles along the way. Story 21. I exude confidence and enjoy the life it allows me to lead. I believe many other men are insecure, often for reasons within their control. I would love to help them, but it is not my place to intervene unless they ask me. Story 22. As a white man, I am trying to understand how I suddenly became a racist and sexist person. Throughout my childhood, I was targeted by African Americans and Middle Eastern individuals for being white. I also served time in prison and faced problems with certain groups because I refused to avoid friendships with people I knew from the streets who were black or brown. Story 23. It is unfortunate that some women expect you to be mentally and physically strong all the time. However, when you are not, they may make fun of you. Story 24. I am just a person with good days and bad days. However, I am constantly told that I belong to the most privileged class of people who have ever lived, so I should not complain about anything. I do not meet the cultural criteria of what a real man is. Despite this, I am blamed for the existence of these criteria and the overall structure of patriarchy. Story 25. I'm going to give it to you straight. Jobs are harder. Nobody cares unless you're lucky enough to find someone who doesn't betray you. Want to help someone? You get questioned or brushed off. Speak your mind? You get criticized and insulted. Give a basic compliment? You might be labeled a predator. Care for a child? You could also be seen as out of place or labeled a predator. Trying to be a good father? You might face negative talk from women who complain about their own responsibilities. Equality? Only when it suits a woman. Every standard for fitness, acceptance of danger, and risk seems to disadvantage men and favor women, yet we are still somehow viewed as the bad guys. The moral of the story? Social media can be harmful. Trust nothing. Story 26. As a man, it makes me sad reading all these replies. Emotionless. My experience and that of my friends is that our families, friends, and spouses expect and encourage the sharing of emotions. Loved only on the condition you provide. I feel this is not the case. Like most things, the vocal minority of negative individuals are trying to promote the idea that men cannot express emotions, that everything is their responsibility to provide, and that they must be physically tough. In reality, the majority of people do not agree with this perspective. Good individuals encourage men to express emotions and love them unconditionally. While things can be difficult for men, I don't believe the situation is entirely negative. Story 27. My life is probably very different from other men. I would say that being born as a woman would suit my personality better. Well, it is too late for that. For me, it is somewhat disappointing. So I am just trying to minimize the damage and make the best of the difficult situation I was given. Story 28. Full of nice moments and emotional connections, it is easy for a man to choose how and when to let his guard down. Aware of this privilege, I go out of my way to ensure that the people I meet or spend time with have the best experience possible. Story 29. There is no need to fear. Someone physically assaulting me is not a concern. Furthermore, not having to worry about my appearance as I get older is somewhat relieving, I suppose. However, being expected to never show emotion and having my worth as a human being strictly tied to how much money I earn is not pleasant. Story 30. Fat becomes unstoppable. Your last experience was 20 years ago. Your wife is just a roommate. And one day you realize you have nothing to live for. Story 31. It seems that nobody truly cares about you. If you're not 6 feet tall, earning a six-figure salary and over 6 inches, then they don't even pretend to care. Story 32. We must give everything and expect nothing in return. It is essential to provide for your family, support your wife emotionally and physically, and show her love and affection. But what do you receive in return? Often, it is primarily physical intimacy. Story 33. No one really cares about you, and most women you date will use your emotions and the things you share against you. Story 34. There are many expectations placed on men. They are seen as providers but must also be present enough to avoid resentment. They are expected to be strong in difficult times yet gentle in family settings. Men are required to display bravery in dangerous situations, even while experiencing fear themselves. In many ways, life can be easier for men, but I believe there are numerous sacrifices that accompany this role, which often go unnoticed in the pursuit of keeping everyone happy. Story 35. When you go to sleep, your brain is running at 500 kilometers per hour. When you wake up feeling tired, 3 minutes later, your brain starts racing, slowly creeping up to the 500 kilometers per hour mark. You experience this every day. Story 36. Lonely and full of expectations from others who only value you instrumentally, I might face an earlier death than most women. On the positive side, having a penis is enjoyable. I can write my name in the snow. Story 37. To quote LP, woke up in the same air you breathe. By 12 o'clock, the whole earth felt dirty. Story 38. The sooner you learn to work and engage in it, the better. Next, focus on finding happiness in your work and seeking satisfaction. It is important to invest time in your career to ensure you can provide for yourself and your family, both now and in retirement. This may sound challenging, but if the work is meaningful, it can be fulfilling. Story 39. I would describe it as a stone-faced sponge. No matter what life throws at us, we just have to deal with it and act like it's all fine. Even if our lives are crumbling, not many people will be compassionate if someone suddenly breaks down crying due to the hardships of life. Story 40. It depends on how you lived as a teenager or a young adult. If you faced challenges and made the right choices when it would have been easier to do otherwise, life can be much simpler. At least in America, where our national pastime is celebrating mediocrity. If you can do the bare minimum, you have very little competition. If you did not take things seriously when you were younger, believing that you would never use certain knowledge in the real world, it can be quite brutal and unforgiving. There may not be anyone to empathize with your situation. Ultimately, if you carelessly navigate life, it can lead to regrettable consequences. Story 41. Life is pretty good. Most of the time, I exist as myself. When I am reminded that I am a man, it is usually a positive experience. Story 42. Everyone experiences life differently, regardless of gender. It is certain that my male friends have a different perspective on life than I do, and some of my female friends also have different views on their experiences. In the end, my opinion is this: unless you are extremely wealthy, life can be challenging regardless of gender. Story 43. Lonely. We brood and reflect and pass it all off as nothing. To be fair, the only thing that helps is when a woman gives you her love. We are determined to be worthy of stature and have a purpose, but we have no clue. Caring for someone else more than yourself is a relief in this regard. Story 44. The world feels indifferent. I have been assaulted by women and told that I should stand by and let them hurt me. I have been mocked, disrespected, laughed at, and hurt, only to face more mockery and assault when I try to stand up for myself. I have learned that women are meant to be protected, while men are not afforded the same consideration. Story 45. If you don't come from wealth, are not particularly attractive, and lack exceptional charisma, you will likely remain single. There are no two ways about it. Story 46. Desperate. It's as if you're always drowning in the open ocean, but you never lose the energy to keep kicking your legs and keep your head above the waves. Even as you breathe in more and more water, your achievements aren't yours, but your problems are. If you're overweight, you feel subhuman. If your job doesn't meet the expectations of others, you're considered lazy. If you're single and lonely, it's because you're a terrible person. If you're single and happy, you're still accused of lying and being a terrible person. You're constantly catching comments from conversations and threads. This is why men are bad. This group of men causes this problem. Any attempt to dissuade the collective from that perception is met with fierce backlash. Not only are men viewed negatively, but now you are seen as one of the bad ones too. Seeking help feels like a gamble. You can reach out to the vastness of the internet, but that's usually met with reasons why you're inadequate. Some men might be sympathetic to your plight, while others are unwilling or unable to provide any support. Women are an even greater risk. Some are good at listening, but others can drive the dagger of your insecurities so deeply that you lose all hope of ever pulling it out. So you learn to drown quietly. You stay silent and keep kicking, hoping that eventually you find shore or a boat, or failing that, you learn to stop kicking altogether. Story 47. Cold. We are often judged by how useful we are to others, and it is challenging for those who do not meet expectations. This feeling may be more pronounced for me as a visually impaired man. Story 48. I'm really overwhelmed with my workload. Feels like there's too much to handle. Story 49. Nothing is particularly black or white. There is so much gray area, nuance, and hypotheticals involved in life. The burden of performance weighs heavily on the mind day by day. Story 50. Treated as a means to an end rather than as human beings, our value is solely in what we do or provide. Then we are told that we are toxic and privileged, blamed for everything wrong in the world. We are discarded by those who claim to love us, like yesterday's newspaper, and everyone looks at us as if it is our fault, whether it is or not. Story 51. Being a man means carrying the weight, taking the hits, and still standing tall, not for applause, but because that is what strength does. Story 52. Stressful and paralyzing at times. I have to endure quietly, otherwise I face judgment. There's a lot of pressure, and it doesn't matter if I am not considered strong. I just have to keep going. Story 53. My life has been hard. I was sexually assaulted when I was a child and then married a woman who denied me everything. I know you weren't asking us, but these experiences shaped my life, leaving me with rarely known true love and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Having set the mood, I would say that life as a man can be filled with people who don't believe what you say or care how you feel because we're supposed to tough it out. In the past few years, I've started to see the misinformation I was fed about masculinity. Story 54. As a woman reading this, I feel heartbroken for many of you. I send hugs to anyone who needs one. Hang in there, everyone. I'm sorry if things are difficult. Story 55. None of the social or biological concerns or responsibilities that women have are acknowledged, but at the same time, nobody cares about your pain or trauma. Story 56. I think many people here are correct. There is an expectation from men that we will take care of issues. Could be as simple as a clogged shower drain, as complex as diagnosing car electrical problems, or as serious as stepping in as a defender during difficult situations. I know we all want equal rights, and I support that, but when things go wrong, men are expected to handle it. Story 57. I work, then I come home, and sometimes my wife has a few things she wants done, like a broken light switch or a shelf to put together. I take out the trash and change the car oil when it's time. When she's tired, I wash the dishes and make the kitchen shiny. I enjoy spending time with my kids, so I sit down to chat or help with their homework. Occasionally, I'll take them to the park, and while they play, I can read. When the kids are asleep, my wife and I connect, but that only happens twice a week at most since I'm nearing 40. I like getting things done around the house because I want her to be happy, and I also prefer a clean space. I don't really play games, but at the end of the day, I watch videos, go through the mail, and enjoy a few beers. Simple, but I like it. Story 58. Well, I feel like I should say to take this with a grain of salt since I am a transgender woman pre-hormone replacement therapy. I would say it is emotionless, but I cannot speak for everyone. For me, I had an abusive friend at a younger age, so I had to stop feeling emotions to avoid being insulted and hurt. Additionally, I have been somewhat depressed since I am a transgender woman, and I have not been able to undergo hormone replacement therapy for a while. Story 59. I would say it is a demanding, underappreciated, and mostly thankless existence. No one says it is all on you to figure it out, but it definitely is. We provide support while stressing about major obstacles and searching for suitable outcomes, allowing those around us to focus on minor issues that seem like life and death to them but are meaningless to us. Then we are criticized incessantly because we do not seem to care about the intense obsession those around us have for their trivial problems. The threats in the world, our community, and those that can directly affect our families seem like a never-ending worry, but we prepare in subtle ways that often go unappreciated. Overall, it is normal for men to appear disconnected from the realities of our loved ones because we worry about bigger issues more frequently than they do. We carry the burden so they do not have to. Story 60. In stark contrast to many here, I'm just fine and always have been. I live in Australia, which may have something to do with it. Although some of the negative aspects of United States work culture are coming here, I've managed to avoid them my entire life. Story 61. I have a cat resting on my chest while my wife of 20 years reads by my side, and I enjoy a light buzz from a cocktail. Life is pretty good at the moment. Story 62. My life is pretty good. I treat others with respect, and I receive similar treatment in return. Although I am not a white man, I recognize that men generally have more freedom and opportunities than women, and I strive not to take it for granted. I do my best to be an ally to those who need or would appreciate support, which motivates me to be a better person. Story 63. My life is pretty stress-free, and I always do what I want. I am not wealthy or comfortable, but I feel like I have it much easier than most. Story 64. I have been single for 4 years and I want to talk to women. However, some of them don't know what they want or are not interested in talking to us at all because they think we are just seeking sex. Story 65. Many people tell you how privileged you are and how good you have it, urging you not to complain and to focus on uplifting others, all while you're struggling with your own challenges that can feel significant relative to your experience. At other times, it's fine. Urinals are clean. Story 66. Work hard, and no one actually cares about you. Make money, and women will be with you, but it's empty love. Story 67. There are many answers here. Some I agree with and some I don't. Based on my personal experience, they are all valid for different people. I scrolled through and noticed that nobody mentioned how strange it can be to have a penis. It feels like having a second brain that only exists to impulsively drive you to make choices. It's powerful but not uncontrollable and has gotten many men into serious trouble. Story 68. I am expected not to be passionate about my interests. It is considered weird for me to own things that are more childish. This is frustrating because I love talking about trilobites, watching Ninjago, and writing fan fiction. Once I became an adult, I was seen as unusual for doing so. Story 69. I may just be feeling this way, but I have the desire to excel in everything I do to feel adequate. Story 70. Our suffering is not real. It does not matter what we go through. Most people in our lives will not acknowledge our struggles and will often tell us they are not real. The best we can reasonably hope for is dismissal. Story 71. A contradiction exists. Many people, especially women, tell us that we matter and that our opinions and emotions should be shared. In reality, no one cares about us unless we can offer something in return. Our value seems to depend on what we provide, rather than being based on love or connection. This contributes to the fact that a majority of homeless individuals are men. I can confidently say that society often prefers us to suffer in silence rather than to express our feelings openly. Story 72. You must be strong, emotionally, physically, and mentally. It's okay to fall, but how you learn and grow from these experiences will help build you into a stronger version of yourself. Story 73. When I want something done or see something that needs to be done, I take action. Sometimes I ask for help, but it often causes more trouble than it is worth. Whenever my wife or kids need something done or notice something that needs attention, they ask me to take care of it. They frequently interrupt me when I am working on something for my wife to request help with their tasks. Occasionally, my wife even interrupts me to ask for help with something else. As challenging as this may seem, it is actually wonderful. I have a loving family that depends on me, and I love them all. Story 74. Life as a man is fine. There aren't any issues I face because I'm a man. Just basic life activities. Making money, making friends, and hopefully finding someone to love romantically. Story 75. Modern masculinity has issues. It is challenging to discuss these issues maturely because the conversation has been overtaken by individuals with harmful ideologies. The presence of these groups prevents the core issues from being addressed. Men affected by gendered expectations are often the least willing to explore these topics. The harmful narratives serve not only to depict themselves as victims, but also to obscure the more complex realities of the situation. Story 76. I'm glad I don't menstruate. It was really confusing growing up in the 1980s. Sex, love, rock and roll, and Fonzie were cool. School was also confusing with the way people socialized. My male friends were relaxed and less verbal. We liked to do things like playing games or building something. I value time spent creatively, making a refrigerator box a fort and adding rooms with television boxes. It felt like we were kings of the world with a fortress. I digress. I grew up with older kids, so I always had to prove myself. I did things I should have been seriously injured from, but the brotherly love of men gives you the confidence to do it. For me, it was more about climbing the highest tree or jumping over a stream with a 20-foot drop. I mean, I could write a book. How much do you want to know? I liked playing sports, I think. No, I really didn't. Baseball was slow and sweaty. A mean kid in Little League threw a ball straight at me and chipped a tooth. I remember his dad being proud of him. I liked basketball. Here's an embarrassing story. Basketball was fun and I was pretty good. Once, while playing a game, I got the ball at half court. I ran and scored 2 points, but with each step I took, a little audible fart came out. It was not glorious and very awkward. Also, basketball ended on Fridays when the Dukes of Hazzard came on, so we had to rush home to see it. I had no idea how racist and sexist it was. We also had Three's Company with Jack Tripper, the former priest from the Waltons, on TV. I'm not your average male, maybe, but this is some of my life. You asked. Story 77. I'm angry, but I'm not sure why, and no one seems to care. Sometimes I feel sad, but I can't tell anyone. I get depressed, but that can't be because I am a man. Some days I feel happy, but my wife asks me to do things that ruin that happiness. I enjoy intimacy, but she doesn't seem to want the same kind of connection I desire. Story 78. It is much easier to focus on activities you enjoy without relying on others. Story 79. There are some really cool parts. There's a feeling that words don't capture, like being Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Ms. Marvel all rolled into one. When you accomplish something meaningful and you do it well, and you and your people are improved or have better lives because of your success. The moment when every painful day, hour, and minute all become worth it. When they look up at you with wide eyes and see their hero, the person who made it happen for them. Every other moment feels like a perpetual waking nightmare. And as I get older, those good moments happen less and less often. I'm blessed to have had people in my life worth fighting for. I could not have survived without that. And I felt those bitter, ugly feelings when I was alone. I'm not a handsome, social person, and the ladies knew it. I was able to find better men to emulate and, in turn, find people to support. I know that despite my success, I'm in the minority, privileged to have had a better life than most. All the other commenters are absolutely correct as well. I just have this insight to offer that I didn't see covered. Story 80. Take your pick. Loneliness is an epidemic that has been prevalent for a long time. It has become much more noticeable in the past 30 to 45 years due to how connected the world is and the rise of social media. Now, individuals can compare their lives with others. Emotional withdrawal is prevalent. Some of us were told it is okay to show emotion. However, when we do express our feelings, we often face ridicule and negativity, leading us to believe that it is unacceptable. This results in many men bottling everything up until they can no longer contain it. The value of individuals is often based on their ability to provide. A notable quote by Chris Rock reflects that children, women, and pets are loved unconditionally. while men are valued only if they can deliver something of worth. If men fail to provide value, they may feel deemed useless or a waste of space. Story 81. It started when I was a child. I was expected to achieve good grades in school to eventually become a doctor, as my father was one. When it became clear that this would not happen, I joined the military in 1972, and my father was fine with it. I have always been rather enthusiastic about dating, which sometimes led to awkward situations since my body had its own ideas about attraction, resulting in unexpected moments of embarrassment. Less frequently, I would get lucky. What felt easy and natural with women wanting intimacy became more challenging as I got older, as my body did not respond as quickly and required more effort to maintain arousal. This can be a difficult situation for older men. I have been with the same woman for several years, but if I were dating again, it would likely be more challenging now that I am in my early 60s. Story 82. Everything is going well. Every opportunity is open. The economy is easy to navigate. I treat women kindly, and as a result, everything has been smooth and enjoyable. Story 83. It has reached the point where I no longer expect anything in return. Everything is focused on sacrifice. Story 84. You are expected to be strong, stoic, powerful, aggressive, and determined. Wearing colors should be considered carefully. Being bullheaded and reckless can lead to complications. Lust is a challenging emotion. If you have ever seen someone act foolishly in an attempt to impress someone, I am sad to say that the struggle is real. And the stereotypes. Here I am at 32, wondering when I am supposed to panic and buy a sports car or engage in some midlife crisis behavior. Or will that miss me entirely? What do I know? In short, it is life. My experience is both unique and standardized. Story 85. As a man, this is the best way I have ever heard it explained. For all the battles and burdens a real man carries, what he needs is for those he carries them for to recognize and respect them and to be grateful. You have no idea the burdens and struggles most men carry inside without showing them. He doesn't know how to express his feelings. He doesn't know what to do about it. He figures that if he shares his feelings and communicates them, he will be shot down, called a fool, or called weak. So he keeps them inside. If a man has one person in his life who does this for him, he is better off than the vast majority of men. Story 86. I was assaulted by a woman in college. People thought it was cool or assumed I must have liked it. For years later, my boss heard the story and was the first person to ask if I was okay. He told me it was assault. It shattered a lot of the bravado around the story. Now, 10 years later, I have a woman as my boss. She tried to sleep with me on a work trip. I told her no. That was 6 months ago, and she has slowly been making my work experience worse, trying to get me to quit. I make 6 figures. I love where I live, and in this economy, I am afraid to quit and not find something equitable. It is my job to provide for my wife. Don't give me that nonsense about how we should provide for each other. Every man knows we have an unspoken duty to provide for our loved ones. She's finally stable and happy. I'm happy at home. I'm not sacrificing this because a boss at work thinks I have a victim mentality. I intend to become invaluable at work. I plan to put the company in a position where if I quit, they will be significantly affected. I will work in silent misery to win the war. This is what it's like to be a man. You carry burdens so those you love do not. Story 87. Eat breakfast burritos, work, exercise, and have fun occasionally. It's pretty sweet. Life can be tough at times, but not all the time. Story 88. You can walk down the street at night a little more easily because you are not much of a target. However, in the event that you do end up as a target, no one is coming to help you. You should hope that whoever is attacking you leaves you healthy enough to at least crawl to the hospital. Story 89. Whatever happens, no one cares. You are there to provide some kind of value and not complain about it. When you don't say anything, women in your life may say you are a bad communicator. When you do say something, you may be labeled a monster or they lose respect for you for being human. You live, give, protect, and die. Hopefully, if you have children, they will respect your struggle. Story 90. I had to learn to suppress my emotional responses to everything at a young age. I can't cry anymore. Everything that happens around me feels distant, as if it's happening to someone else. Story 91. On one hand, I feel privileged knowing I won't have to look over my shoulder every time I'm out or worry about someone chasing after me. On the other hand, there's a crushing burden of being perceived as a source of money by everyone except my family. It also doesn't help that my feelings and emotions seem unimportant to most people around me, while I am often criticized for being stoic and possibly asocial. Story 92. Tough. There is very little support. If you have good momentum and maintain it, life can be great. However, if you fall off track for any reason, you will have to rely solely on yourself. Story 93. I am alive. I have to deal with challenges. I am not very happy, but it's manageable. Honestly, I feel like most comments in this thread describe the experience of being an adult. At the end of the day, most people, regardless of gender, are not very happy and face similar challenges, including pressure from work and bills, family responsibilities that make you feel like you are constantly sacrificing yourself, and superficial relationships even with the people you care about. Life can be chaotic, and being a man is just one part of it. Story 94. We created a system that simultaneously allows us significant political power and economic growth potential. Yet we have pigeonholed ourselves into narrow and ultimately destructive societal roles. These roles often lead to unhealthy and debilitating habits, preventing us from truly enjoying that power and wealth. It is challenging to find ways to be a man that do not result in isolation, depression, and a lack of meaningful connections beyond romantic partners. The things that can help, such as therapy, open discussion, experiencing and expressing emotions beyond stoicism and anger, and meaningful friendships, are often labeled as unmanly and weak. Many face the challenge of having few positive role models in their lives and struggle to unlearn the harmful messages we receive. Story 95. Finding the white horse, learning to ride it, and staying on it. Yes, expectations can be challenging. Story 96. Cool when you're young, even better when you're older, but absolutely dreadful when older depending on discipline. Story 97. Oh, it is excruciatingly painful. I had to grow up and watch as my sisters did horrible things and got away with them. I lived through the abuse of my mother just to be told, "I'm sure she still loves you." Nobody knows love like a mother's love. I was slapped by a girl in middle school every day, yet the day I slapped her back, suddenly I was in trouble, as they watched her do the same thing to me every day for years. I was falsely accused of a serious crime because I dated someone unstable. My ex-wife caused me immense pain daily, and then cheated on me because I wasn't affectionate enough. I am an honors student in college and found out that my current lowest grade is an 85%. Want to know my uncle's reaction? He raised me and said, "How can we improve that? Because nothing I do will ever be good enough unless I am getting straight 100s. I don't know about you all, but I am only human. Please give me a break. I wake up at 2 a.m. to go to work so I can have time in the evenings for college. And I somehow still find time to help everyone fix their own problems while I am over here suffering alone in silence. Why? Because if I have learned anything, it is that nobody will help me the same way I help others. Yet, I am expected to help others the way I do. And you know the most messed up part of it all? Part of me loves the fact that I am so kind, generous, and willing to help, even at my own sacrifice. But another part of me hates myself for it because I never leave anything left for myself. By the time I am finally home and have free time, I have the energy to put on a video while I take a nap. Then I wake up and have dinner while I scroll through social media, shower, and go to bed. That is my free time, taking care of basic necessities and hygiene. That is all I leave for myself anymore. And I can't change either. I have tried so desperately. But it either comes out as me lashing out at random people who don't deserve it or as me trying to set healthy boundaries with my uncle, just for him to yell at me and tell me I ruined a special occasion. I just can't win. When I do the wrong thing, I feel guilty and get yelled at. When I do the right thing, I get yelled at and feel guilty. I just can't win. Story 98. I genuinely feel for men in 2025 because these individuals did not create the patriarchy, yet they are affected by it like everyone else. Story 99. Everyone expects things from you, and the moment you cannot meet their expectations, they treat you poorly and ridicule you. No one thanks you or appreciates you. Everyone is fine with being rude, disrespectful, or hurtful because you're a man and can handle it. If you complain, they ridicule you. Anything you do can and will be used against you, especially your emotions. There is no one to help you when you fail. Absolutely no one. If you fail, you either find a way to lift yourself up, or you're finished. There is no safety net for men. Honestly, it feels cold, lonely, and frustrating. Story 100. It seemed to be all downside and no upside. I was unsure how much was due to being a man and how much was due to being transgender. Story 101. That fitness journey to achieve the largest muscles possible is progressing well for me. Story 102. I am a transgender man, so my experience may be a bit different. I grew up feeling uncomfortable in my body, and discovering my identity was surprisingly comforting for me. I have already undergone top surgery and plan to get bottom surgery soon. I feel much better in my body now. However, even as a man, I do wear feminine clothing sometimes because clothing should not be limited to a specific gender. Story 103. I was abused and neglected throughout my childhood, and as an adult, I feel I am not allowed to talk about it. If I do, I am blamed for how I feel about things now, despite the formative experiences I endured from the time I was learning to talk, read, and write. Meanwhile, I see women who have gone through similar experiences being supported endlessly. I cannot even imagine what that kind of relief and absolution feels like. Story 104. We don't have time to feel emotions. We need to act promptly and then move on to the next task. Story 105. It's great. I love being a man. Strong, sensible, a problem solver, can be silly, make decisions, and value camaraderie and respect. Story 106. I'm tired of dealing with men who put in half-hearted efforts and constantly complain about their struggles. There is a strong physical sex drive that isn't always easy to manage. Story 107. Reading through this thread as a gay man, I realize that being gay comes with hardships, but I also recognize the privileges that can accompany it. Many of the issues discussed do not apply to me at all. Story 108. It's hard to navigate at times. You have many expectations placed on you, and you are very cautious about how you act, so you don't accidentally come off as unsettling. We would feel safer, though. Story 109. A battlefield where only a bronze shield I have obtained is being destroyed by the sharp metal of the enemy's spear. Story 110. Have you ever carried a sandbag on your shoulder? It's like that every day, and the bag gets heavier each year for 40 years. Then you die. Everyone tells you to ask for help but ridicules you when you do, so you persevere. Story 111. You know when you are pumping gas and trying to stop at $40, but instead you hit $40.01? Yeah, that's how it feels. But we just keep moving on. Story 112. If I look like I know what I'm doing, nobody will bother me. If I look lost, someone will help me. Nobody harasses, stalks, or tries to assault me, even if I'm wearing revealing clothing. When I tell my doctor something, I am believed right away and not dismissed as hysterical. If I complain about something at a store, they apologize and fix the problem. I am male, but I grew up watching my mother and sister face such challenges for as long as I can remember. It's not an exaggeration. It's actually really easy to exist in a world that's built for you. Story 113. Starts great, then becomes tiring, lonely, and stressful. The hint of failure drives women away. I face rejections all the time. There is no acceptance of who I am. I feel old and out of shape. I feel like I might die. Story 114. You are often expected to lead once you become an adult. If you cannot or refuse to, you risk losing respect. Story 115. I eat, I sleep, I breathe, and sometimes I experience arousal. Therefore, I am a man. I don't know what else to say. Having not been anything else, what do I compare it to? I'm 75. I suppose that what was true for me was true for most of my peers. We were expected to be strong and willing to work hard. We should be stoic when faced with pain and physical discomfort. I can remember my grandmother being displeased with me when I came running into the house with a serious cut as a boy. I was scared because I was bleeding profusely, and it hurt. She scolded me and tapped me on the back of the head, telling me she couldn't believe I was making such a fuss as if I were a baby. Then she took care of it. At another time, I came in with a broken forearm, teeth gritted, walking normally, and I calmly said, "I think it's broken." She was all over it, assuring me it would be fine and expressing pride in my composure. She said it, wrapped it in a sling, and treated me to some of her special oatmeal cookies. I felt proud, and she told my grandfather later how brave I'd been. To be fair, we were rural folks, and my grandmother was one tough lady, tough in every way a person could be. It was hard to impress her, but I tried my best. I was always taught that a man is the provider and does whatever work is necessary, no matter how hard, to do so. He is also the family protector, expected to sacrifice himself for his loved ones. In the context of my family, understanding that we were our own subculture, a man never hit a woman. It was considered the greatest sin. Not only was it wrong, but it was also a sign of cowardice. A true man sneered at pain and discomfort, disdainful of too much comfort and luxury for himself, but took joy in spoiling his wife and children. That's always been my view of life. Pretty much still is, although I know it is out of fashion now and people will probably laugh at me. I can't help it. It is who I am. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.